Matt, you're the first one up, and Matt had a interesting question. To be honest, this question makes me cringe. Not because you asked a cringy question, Matt. It's just that the whole RPE percentage thing is a bit cringy. But I'll explain my thought process in a minute. Matt, I'm just going to give you the floor. You've got 2 minutes to tell us. 2 minutes, right? Tell us why RPE over percentage. If you're talking, Matt, unmute yourself.
I said, does it have to be RPE? But you mean sorry, don't worry. All right.
You know what?
Right,
you got 2 minutes. You got 2 minutes. Present
2 minutes.
us with your stance here.
I'll try to let my autistic ways get it out in 2 minutes.
Let's go.
So for example, I want to talk straight now about if we had RPE on one side, percentage on one side, and in the middle we have stress, right?
Yep.
So from my experience as a coach, as an athlete, like I've been powerlifting for 9 years. I've done both. So I've had percentage-based training and RPE training, and my benefit and my progress has always lent towards RPE. One, because I live a very high stressful life, because of like mental health stuff. And my ways on RPE has always been able to account for like the stress in my life, right? Two, when it comes to percentage-based training, right? When you give someone a number and they don't get it, it creates a false thought in their mind where they could possibly like think that they are not doing anything to progress, that type of stuff. But if you give them RPE, they can account that number to suit how they are feeling on that day. So if you have, like I said, RPE and percentage on one, stress in the middle, it allows for the stress more with RPE and the lifestyle things in our life to account a bit more for RPE. And that's my view on that. But when you come to percentage-based training, unless you're adjusting week to week their percentage based off their reports on how they feel, like which most people who use percentage-based training don't, they give like 6 weeks blocks. If you look at most people that do percentage, it's given because it's easier to build a program with percentages over a certain 6 to 12 week period. You can just dial in a number and allow the template to whack out some percentages. Yep. Though when it comes to RPE and percentages, I do use percentages in my training. So my method was built around Juggernaut training systems and RTS, right? So a top set and a back down percentage sets. But I took my method from Juggernaut where it says like 60 to like 75% is like volume, from 75 to 90 is strength, and then from 90 is 100%. So I might do a top RPE set during a 12-week prep close to the comp that has like an RP7 to rise up over a single. And then your back off sets might, depending on where you are in the phase, might start at 70%, might start at 80%, depends on the rep ranges. So the rep ranges obviously fall into the percentage being like your 75 to 60% will be like your 5, 6, 8 rep range.
Yep.
Anything from 75 up will be like 4, 3. And then your top sets, like your percentage for your peaking will be like your 2s and your 1s will obviously be in the 90s, that type of stuff. So that's how I found that my programming works well. Another thing with RPE, I find it a lot more fun if I can build like a rising RPE than giving someone a straight number to do like 3 or 4 sets of, because I find a lot of people who use percentage based stuff just go, here's 3 by 5, here's 2 by 5 at this weight. Whereas like, man, the last thing I want to fucking do is hit the same number 3 times and it's like boring. With RPE, I can do a rising RPE. It gives the athlete some little bit incentive to put a little bit more weight on each time, and they can find where their RPE is whilst they're moving up in weight. And it gives them more confidence to build, to put a heavier weight on there and get their RPE a little bit higher. They will kind of like sometimes overshoot and undershoot, but that's how we learn and build RPE, and eventually in a 6-month period, most of my athletes just can really pick their RPE straight away from the way I program. Yep. Sorry, there's my 2 minutes.
Yeah, that wasn't 2 minutes. That was actually 4.5 minutes, but thank you very much. Okay. That was quite comprehensive. I like that. Firstly, does anyone have anything to add on the conversation around RPE or percentage? Anything? It can be a positive or a negative connotation. It doesn't really matter. Nope. All right. So, Matt, wholly agree with everything you just said. I'm under the exact same thought process, but obviously there's a bit of things that we might need to discuss here, because I'm much the same. I like RPE. I don't actually use RPE. I use RIR instead for my own programming when I prescribe. My own training from Will has RPE, of course. So I use RIR, RPE, if you will, and I use percentage. When I use percentage, I do not give someone a percentage number for them to work out first and foremost. I will use percentages in the means or in a way where I'm giving them load ranges, right, to hit. I'm very much under the pretense that if you give someone a fixed number and they don't hit it, it's then very, very sad times for them. It's ideal that you try and stay away from that as much as possible, giving them a fixed number.
Can I just add one thing in? My back offsets are based off an estimated 1RM too. The other thing on that is, I think with percentage based, people, I forgot to add in, people add in like percentage, most percentage based stuff is not off an estimated 1RM. It's off like a previous like PR that's irrelevant 6 months down the track.
It depends how you're quantifying that estimated 1RM at the same time. But yeah, you're right. If they're estimating those percentages off a number that was quantified months ago, probably incorrect. The idea is to obviously look at the last heavy thing that they did. You can put that in a calculator if you will, if you have one, estimate the 1RM based on that, use that number, and then off you go. So no, I totally agree. One thing that I kind of wanted to make mention and draw some parallels to here is, you said before you got RPE on one side, percentage on the other side, and then stress in the middle. I actually look at it completely differently. I actually look at it stress at the top, RPE and percentage on either sides. So stress isn't in the middle, stress is on the top, because stress actually underpins both those things and it influences both the outcomes, whether it's RPE or percentage. So I guess I just wanted to contextualize that point.
I more meant like stresses in the middle, and you got RP and percentage on either side. RPE more accounts for people who are going through stress at the time, rather than percentage doesn't really allow any lenience in that sense.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think anyone here would argue that, especially not me. I totally agree, but this is the reason why I say it says on top. Because I actually look at percentage and RP as a joint force. Now, obviously, we can speak about the actual pros and cons of both, but we don't necessarily have to go there. Let's just open the conversation up this way. They are joint forces, righto? So here we've got has anyone seen this table before?
Yeah, this is why I use Juggernaut, because it's fucking.
Yeah.
Is this
Stephen,
the Mike Tashir one?
Yeah, absolutely. Stephen, have you seen this before?
Yeah, something very similar.
Do you use anything like this?
Not particularly, man. Like I'm not.
Yeah, you're more
I don't coach any. Yeah, I don't coach any powerlifting, man. So yeah, I don't have. I'd like to. That's why I'd like to learn about it. Absolutely, but I don't use it. No.
All right, cool. Well, in that case, listen up and have a look at this. Deacon or Jake, do you guys use one of this? Anything like this before?
Oh, I haven't. No.
Deacon? No. Cool.
No, I've looked at it before, but I haven't actually used it.
Sweet. Super simple, super fucking simple, right? It's obviously comes from Mike Teixeira. He created this. I don't know how well you guys can actually see this, but essentially what we're looking at here, right? We've got RPE here on the left-hand side in this column, starting from 6 up to 10. If we're looking at RPEs below 6, I don't know. I think it's a waste of effort. So we kind of just started at 6 here. Then we've got reps from 1 to 12. You can obviously extend this and make this as large as you want, but this is the framework that I actually work within, right? It's got reps. We've got RPE in the top left corner. You can input an estimated 1RM or a 1RM. As a result of that, you input this number. For this example, we've got 200 kilos. Now, based on whichever rep range we choose and whichever RPE we prescribe, we can actually assume that they're going to hit a certain amount of number. Now, the reason I say they are joint forces is because you can't actually prescribe RPE without prescribing percentage at the same time.
Yeah.
So whether you choose to prescribe RPE or percentage, you're doing the exact same thing.
But
the only thing that you're not doing is if you prescribe a deliberate percentage to the decimal, then that's like giving them this fixed number that they may or may not hit, doesn't account for stress. That's not cool. That's when we start to talk about load ranges, right? So for example, we've got RPE here at RPE 8. We're going to work in triples. The percentage for an RPE 8 over 3 repetitions is, I can't fucking see that, is
86.3.
86.3%. Righto, the fixed load could then be 102.6. Are we all kind of still on the same page here?
Says 172.
172.6. My bad. My eyes. Okay. So can you see all I'm doing here, Matt, is I'm just trying to express how you can't really differentiate the two. They work hand in hand with one another.
Yeah. The only thing I have to say about this chart is that Mike Tashir's chart doesn't account for accessories because they train specific to powerlifting. So, like, his percentages are higher. So this is the thing I had a problem with when I first started coaching. I was like trying to account for these percentages to Mike Tashir's RPE. And this is why I shifted to the juggernaut kind of percentages for my back offsets.
As in,
because,
you'd use this for accessories.
What did you say? Yeah. But
You'd
like,
use
I
this
just,
for, oh, okay. I would only ever use this for the SBD.
yeah. See, the top sets are so much like percentages are so much higher. And I've had this conversation with Will before as well, and we've discussed it. And he said the reason the percentages are where they are is because obviously Mike Tashir just programs SBD a lot rather than so much accessories and stuff like that. So it doesn't account for extra workload done over the years, the like extra work that we might add in like for accessory work. So that's
what do you mean it doesn't account for it?
So, like the percentage, for example, of the like, say, for example, if an 8 is like 92 or something, like as a 1 or what, like I don't. If it's the chart I think I'm talking about, we had this. Me and Will had a conversation about it, and he said that I was like the percentage because obviously I'll do as RP7 for a top set, right? And then I'll put in below that, say if someone's got a set of 5, I might put in like 70% or 75 and rise over the couple of weeks, and their back offsets of as their RPE goes up, and then whatever their back offsets obviously go up as well. But if I was to use, say, I had a set of 5 and I went down, and it was like I wanted them to hit like a 7.5 or an 8, like the 79% out of 5 is going to be a lot higher based off the top set than it would be if I was to give them a little bit lower percentage. Does that make sense here?
Yeah, kind of. I'm not entirely sure what that looks like on paper with the actual client itself. Like it is an individual dependent thing. But if we kind of just stick with the overarching principle here, and we'll move on to the next slide, we'll talk a little bit more about that. But as you can see here, even if we think that these percentages might be a little bit too high, a little bit too far fetched, they are, and they are. This is a tool. This is not gospel. Right.
Yeah.
Because whatever number we put here is subject to change. The number we put here is either going to be a 1RM that was done previously in time or an estimated 1RM. Neither of those is accurate. You know what I mean? Until we peak and then we actually express a new 1RM. So just because of that, this whole thing cannot be taken as gospel. Rather, it can only be taken as an appropriation. But the entire point of this one was just to show that RPE percentage. It's like if you give someone sets of 3 at a fucking RPE 8, that's because you want them to be in that percentile range. Because in that percentile range, they're probably accumulating what's called strength variability, right? Like, so you can't. It's too hard to differentiate the two. But when it comes to a conversation of which one is better, you can use fixed loads, you can use fixed percentages, you can use RPE, you can use a top set RPE and a percentage drop. You can use a top set RPE and fixed load drops. You could use a fixed load top set and then RPE drop-offs. Like there's so many ways to go about it.
Yeah, for sure.
And they're the ones that you should, that I think we could both agree on. They're the things that we manipulate on a client-to-client basis. Like we don't actually just stick with the one thing.
Oh man, I change up everything. Like lately, I've been using just RPE and no percentage.
Right. And the thing that anyone here is open to add here, by the way, but this one here is just going to be talking about RPE and how RPE may actually inflict a little bit of ambiguity in training stimulus, perhaps. Again, this is a conversation of clutching at straws, but it is something that can help us, problem solve as we go forward. The subjectivity of RPE. One thing that really frustrates me with RPE is because it's been, it obviously came from what's his name, Borg, whatever.
The Borg scale. Yeah, the Borg scale.
From the Borg scale, and it was RPE is a representation of how hard it felt. It is it is subjective to emotional stress, right? Or distress, should I say. It's non-objective. And that's the entire point. We want it. But now we're starting to look at RPE with how many reps you had left in the tank. And that's quite an objective. That's more objectified than how hard did that feel. And because of that, people that have a lesser training age, we could all agree here, people that have a lesser training age have a harder time actually being on the money with their RPE, right? Do we need them to be absolutely spot on? No, close enough is enough. But what we tend to find is that actually sometimes RPE is a lot of guesswork on the client's behalf. And when we're giving this person who has a high stress environment RPE because auto regulation, but this person in a high stress environment has this auto regulated method, and then they've got to go to the gym, and then again they've got to assess their stress levels. How hard did that feel? How many reps do I think I have left in the tank? And then that just actually makes more mental work for them. And that itself can actually cloudy the entire RPE thing even more. So, for example, someone in that circumstance, it's good to give them RPE, but you got to understand that in and of itself, the fact that you're giving them RPE to auto-regulate in a high-stress circumstance could very well actually yield a net negative result, right? So that's where I like to use something like a fixed top set from a numbers perspective, a range. And then maybe we'll do like percentage drop-offs or whatever else. If I give them a range of 150 to 160, big range, but whatever, then I might be 5% drop based on whichever number they hit to get them a little bit more on the money. And so just a very common representation we see, if we just take the deadlift, for example, and that deadlift is based on 200 kilos, and we give them, we've got 4 sets here at 3 repetitions, and we're using RPE. They could hit set 1 at a 6 RPE that we've prescribed. They might actually hit 150 kilos. Not too bad. That's 78%, right? So that's pretty much on the money, right? And then they hit set 2, which is meant to be RPE 7. But, RPE 6 and RPE 7, and RPE 6, first and foremost, is an extremely easy lift, right? And it tends to give someone a pretty big jolt of confidence. So they go, fuck it, I'm going to go 10 kilos more. This is the training age effect. This is the phenomenon that people expect when they haven't got much training maturity, and to understand that a 10-kilo jump is actually a 10% jump, almost a 10% jump. That was 70%, sorry, which is huge. And then they hit 160, and suddenly they're at 80%, right? But we actually want them working within 86% range. Not too bad. And then suddenly they go set 3. We give them an RPE 8 because that's what we want them to work at. Because they overshot that first set, 10 kilos extra, now they're fragged, but they've got to do another whole RPE more, so they only go 5 kilos. But even that 5 kilos takes them over the percentile range that we want them to work at, and now they're doing 2 sets of it, and then we get a net sum of accumulation of more fatigue. So this is clutching at straws, but go for it.
Can I teach you a way to fix that? Jump in 0.5s. Simple fix.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. This is not me telling you how I.
No, but that's I used to do this, and then I started jumping in 0.5s, and it minimizes people's jumps, and then also on top of that, educating them before they go into RPE. I got a series of videos that they watch when they get a program, all that type of stuff.
That's good. That's a good addition to this conversation, Matt, because people listening who might be like, what the fuck? Oh, a 0.5 jump. Perfect. That is a perfect way to actually do this. But this can be a representation of RPE yielding a negative result, potentially. Alternatively, if I gave someone this repetition range or this load range here, right, I'm prescribing the load range based on the percentile range here, right? So someone will be like, oh, that's percentage, that's fixed loads. Yeah, it's not. It's loads that sit within a percentile range that I actually want them to work in. You know what I mean? So now I'm using technically percentage-based here over RPE, but I've selected this deliberately because it fits within the RPE of the repetition range that we're working in. So we hit that and we go RPE 6, fucking not too bad. Can you see what I'm saying here?
Yeah.
Right. So in this case, it's like the objectivity of RPE works well. So what I mean by objectivity of RPE, it is a subjective thing. But to make it less subjective and a little bit erring closer towards objectivity, i.e., finer tuned, if you will, this is where I might actually sometimes start to use load ranges. I'm still thinking about RPE, RIR. I'm still thinking about auto regulation. I'm doing that via the means of load ranges, which is technical percentage. So this is something that I'd actually do when I'm actually trying to elicit a deliberate dose of intensity or volume at certain intensities and stuff like that. Alternatively, if they're in competition prep as well, because as you can understand, when they're in competition prep too, stress is high. That sounds like a perfect time to actually, auto-regulate. It's just as equally an important time not to let them auto-regulate too much because they're going to want to. And unfortunately, as we err towards peaking, we're looking for that super compensation effect to take place at some point, which means that we've got to drive them to a point where that can actually be expressed nicely. So in a comp prep, it's like, look, I care about your feelings, I care about your stress, but I kind of need you to hit this. It's going to be hard. It's going to feel slow, etc. You know what I mean?
What I would do there
Yep.
is like when we come into a peak, I put someone's RP6 in first, 6.5 for a top single or just whatever their top set's going to be.
Yep.
Let them pick what they think is the 6.5, and then I put their next number in the next week and increase from then on.
Yeah, that's fine. I do that. Why do you do that?
Why do I do that? To teach people responsibility and understand where they're at in their own level. If I think that they're going too low, I'll put the number up a little bit more.
Why couldn't we just give them a load range?
Just because it's just for me, I like people to have their own feel for it all.
What for?
So I like people to take a bit of responsibility. I want to educate people so that they could go off and train by themselves, even though they'll never go off and need me.
We just spoke about retention. That's not what you want.
No, but that's what I mean. I want to be able to. No one will do that because no one fucking you get a coach because you want a coach.
I'm just kidding. I get you.
It saves me a lot less fucking messages when someone's in the gym 10 times a day. It kind of takes a lot of the work from me when you allow them more responsibility to understand their training better, and then they mature as an athlete faster, I find.
Yeah, that's a fair call. Does anyone here use RPE when they program? Jake, are you
sometimes in
sometimes
in a rehab setting, I absolutely do. So
send it. How does it work for you?
Yeah, so when I use it, if someone, so let's just, what would be a prime example? Lumbar disc pathology.
Yep.
So lower back, like disc herniation or some sort of irritation.
Yep.
I will tell them that I want an RPE 8, so on their barbell movements. I'll still get people, once obviously we get it to a point where symptoms are usually under, say, like a 6 out of 10.
Yep.
And then what I'll do is I'll give them for all their barbell main work, so whether it be like trap bar, is typically like heels elevated trap bar is typically one that I'll give for a lumbar disc pathology. So I'll go RPE 8, and then that'll be their top set. And then I'll go reduce load 5 to 10%, and then repeat effort.
Yep.
So I use the RPE for the first one. And normally 9 times under 10, why do I do that? Because people with the lumbar disc pathology will undershoot anyway, so they don't get confident. So RPE is a safe way to go, hey, why don't you pick a number for me? And then let them do that. They'll be hesitant, but then at least I know I can also then gain a perspective psychologically of where they're at. Do they have any fear avoidance? Can they do anything like that around training? So yeah, that's always a good one.
That's fantastic. I want to challenge that a little bit. By the way, yeah. I agree with everything that we're talking about here. I'm not even going to say that I'm playing devil's advocate here. But needless to say, why couldn't you give this person a fix? You could already assume that if they have that pathology and they're working up to a top 8, that they might have some sort of reservation in the numbers that they actually go and do. But why wouldn't you actually want to give them a number to hit? Because you actually probably know that they're capable of doing it. Why couldn't you give them that number or a load range? Why give them the RPE?
Oh, in the honest answer, I've never really done loads, so I've never prescribed loads, obviously because my training that I prescribe for people is more hypertrophy based. But the other reason is too, is I did consider it there for a while. But if they fuck it up, who do you think they point the finger at?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So then it's like, okay, I'm not saying that I'm not here to take responsibility, but if you force someone to do something they don't want to do and they injure themselves, then they just go, it's your fault. Whereas if I let them auto regulate, then what I would do is I allow them to pick a load and I'm like, I'll get them to record it. So that's what I'm massive on with that. So they'll record it, trim it to 30 seconds. I watch it. Then in their check-in, I'll say, I think you can do heavier. I won't say you should go heavier. I'll say, I think you could do heavier because they're going to undershoot. And then, yeah, you're right, go.
Yeah. So this is where you can, because I also work in a rehab setting, and something that I use, or people that I'm rehabbing, I'll intersperse that with a pain scale. And the reason I'll do that is, all right, cool. If you're shooting for an RPE, I'll also have a pain scale for them of like, I don't want this movement to go above a 5 out of 10. That way you're mitigating that risk of, if they do hurt themselves, they can't point the finger at you. And at the same time, the reason we like numbers, something me and Dennis have discussed, is if you want retention, you want to keep people over a longer period of time, you've got to give them a goal to set to. Give them a goal being like, all right, cool, by the end of this rehab process or this consult, I want to get you to an RPE 8. They're probably going to be like, fuck this, I don't really get what that means. But if you're like, all right, cool, by the end of this 6 weeks or 6 consultations, if we can get to 100 kilos, that'll be a really nice number. Because just as much as it's important to be process orientated, it's also very important to be goal orientated, because the goal essentially gives you a compass, but at the same time, it gives them that psychological satisfaction to continue on with you. That's just like my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, and so absolutely, I agree with everything that you've said there too. The only thing is that I find with that is, like, I guess in my setting, is that you give people. So if someone's hesitant and they have a fear avoidance, do you think they're really dialed in to do that top lift? Probably not. Then if you tell them a number that they have to hit, they then feel like they're failing if they don't hit it. So if they don't hit it, that failure then drives, I'm broken, I'm sore, I can no longer do. Whereas if I let them pick a load and then I guide them based off that, it's sort of, in a way, it's not, if you set a hard number, I find for a lot of people is that if they don't hit it, because 9 times out of 10, they may not, due to other reasons, obviously, but if they don't hit that number, it then reinforces that I'm broken. And that's the last thing that I want to do with someone.
Yeah,
because the whole idea of working around the injury is obviously to show them this is what you can do. And if I let them do it, and if I give them the feedback and say, I think you can go heavier, that then allows them to do it. Because also too, like, if they're stressed, they've had a shit day, they go to the gym and they know they have to hit a certain number, and then they get close and they're like, oh, fuck, it feels shit, but I still have to do it. They'll do it anyway. And then if they fuck it up, it's just hot water everywhere.
So that's where a range like what Dennis here is suggesting would be helpful in that instant.
Yeah,
and I
absolutely.
Guess also,
I've never even seen that before. So yeah, absolutely.
Because essentially, Stephen, what the range does is, like I said, you're picking the range based on the RPE, based on that little table over there. So it's like, Matt, how frequently do you have people hitting top sets at 8 RPE?
At the end of maybe like, oh fuck, man.
So
it depends on how.
It's more
an average person,
frequent.
maybe once every fucking like. So fuck, I'd have to say like every 2 cycles. Depends on when you're training, like,
right?
What you're training to. Like, I got athletes, for example, like D, who competed 5 times last year. So, and then I got athletes that compete once a year. So it just depends.
We could probably, it's safe to assume that it's probably more infrequent than it is frequent.
Yeah.
At top RPE. So in your case, Steve, it's like when I'm working around 8s or whatever, it's like judging the person. But let's just take your circumstance here, where you've got this person who has the pathology and they're working up on a heels elevated trap bar deadlift. By the way, hectic exercise. And an RPE 8. It's like the question would have to be like, at what point of their training phase or cycle are they doing this top 8? And it's like, you wouldn't just like at that point in time wipe what you just wrote from an RPE perspective and put a fucking load range. You'd start at the start of the training block essentially. But from training programming principles, it's like, you could give them ranges and start the ranges at the lower end, and you are in control of the ranges based on the RPE, right? So like if you, it's hard to tell. Like, say it's 200 kilo fucking trap bar deadlift, and they've got this pathology, and you started the block, and it's in week 1, and you can probably hit 6s, RPE 6s for the top set. You can give them this range, right? It's a very, very comfortable, easy range. And then the next week, you might go on the 6.5 and give them a range here. And like week after week after week, you're actually in control of their progression. You know, you've afforded the opportunity for graded exposure, for recovery between those sessions, for a realization of the newfound strength week after week. But then, like I said, you've got control of the numbers, and suddenly what we tend to find then is that these people are pushing numbers more than they fucking anticipated. Whereas when we've done the same thing with RPE, we've always noticed like far less from a numbers perspective. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I couldn't agree more. As I guess I said when I started as well, is that I've never used it. So it's not something I'm familiar with. Therefore, I'd learned RPE. And that was just the way I done it. I knew you could work out percentages based off it, but I always just thought RPE was easier. And then I completely scrapped it. But yeah, I've never worked off percentages. So it'd be interesting. Like I'd love to, I don't know where you can get a copy of that table or whatever, but that's definitely something I'd like to fucking have a look at.
You can get it off Google. I can just send it to you. It's absolutely fine.
Can I say one thing on your last?
That'd be.
Yeah, absolutely, Matt.
On the last slide. So, if you just go back, so you got there like right an RP6 and then 60 to 65, right? George goes to work, has a shit day. His boss yells at him all day. He's fucking exhausted. Didn't eat properly. Probably shouldn't train. Goes into the gym to hit RP6, and you got 160 there, and it's not happening. I know his RP6 might be like 140 or 145 that day because of what he's been through. Yeah. So, you know what I mean? Like some RPE can change frequently based off how you had felt that day. Whereas like you're accounted for like a percentage of that, which realistically, I disagree with a lot of the percentage stuff on there. So, but that's just my opinion. And like my 6 could be like, not say a 6, but even my 8 or my 7 might be like fucking way lower than that percentage that day. And then if you've got a 5 kilo jump, like it doesn't really give you much of a leeway, if you know what I mean.
No, so you're saying you disagree with all this here?
For a experienced lifter, I reckon that'd be fine, but not for a novice lifter.
Right. So just remember this here, like loads that I'm saying, is to take RPE from subjective to a little bit more objective to affect a deliberate dose, a deliberate training stimulus, or if you're in a comp prep where sometimes, like I said, we might want to actually push them. Old mate that comes to the gym and he's got to hit this number, and this number based on the numbers that I've constructed here. So based off his estimated 1RM or old 1RM, the number that I've used to put this load range is, he hits this number and it's an RPE 7. Good for you. No worries.
Yeah.
I don't care. Move on. Do the next thing. But I'll tell you the reason why I don't care is because that was just for that day. It doesn't mean that next week, if he comes in that session, he's going to be blasted because he hit these numbers. I know that based on those numbers, this here is the stress. This is the stress that he's placing upon his body, right, from a numbers perspective, and it sits within the RPE 6. So even though it might feel like an RPE 8 for him on that day, I know that from a training dose, it's an RPE 6. If he comes in the next session and he's fucking okay and he's not having the same day that he had last week, then suddenly they might be an RPE 6 again. You know what I mean? So I don't like to actually hold on to the subjectivity of RPE as the driver as to why I'm doing it.
Yeah, and like to give you my experience on that, I'm in a prep right now, and I got shingles like 2 weeks ago, and prior to that, I was hitting 150, 155 on bench, easy as fuck, bro, at a 7.5. And then Will put 7.5 in when I got better, and my 7.5 was 140. So I'd lost 15 kilos. You know what I mean? And it can be a big range sometimes when stresses come into your life. So that's why this is why I don't really like percentage stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if that was me, I would have then changed your RPE to a load.
Yeah.
And I would have probably like accounted for like a bit of a fudge factor because of sickness around about 10% and given you a load and be like, hey, just for this week, let's take the guesswork out of it. Just hit this for me. Yeah. Because I know we're going to get back on track next week, go back to RPE. Like it's so fucking contextual to the person that you're applying it to. It's actually hard to come to a...
It's so hard too because it's so contextual to every person's experience with it too.
Yep. But essentially, like to kind of recap this one, RPE, I love RPE or RIR for general phases. When training maturity is pretty high, so I actually like this for not really novice. I like RPE for top sets, and I like using RPE when I am trying to be a little bit more stress considerate. Percentage load during phases of prep most of the time, but that doesn't mean that I don't use RPE. It still drives a lot of the stuff that I do, but percentages and loads might actually start mixing here. When training is immature, I will absolutely work with RP and RIR, but I will probably take more opportunities to prescribe top sets or back offsets, one of the two. Like I'll use more fixed loads there. Alternatively, back offsets, I like using back offsets as loads, or if like I'm not being stress considerate in a comp phase or something like that. So I know that was very, very long-winded, man, and it probably still didn't give you a right answer, but so long as you can walk away from that.
I just wanted to hear your opinion on it. It doesn't need that, and it's not. There's no wrong or right answers, man. It's just I like to hear other people's experiences so that I can learn from that too.
And then you change the sport, completely different. In the sport of weightlifting, apart from your bigger movements, your main movements, front squats, back squats, any of our pressing, I stick to the reps and reserves similar to what, Dennis does. But when it comes to our technical work and basically most of our things, it's percentages and ranges because we're on the curve of speed strength. And when speed strength's the thing, all we're concerned about is the speed of the bar and hitting our technique. Because if we go too heavy, like say allow an athlete to go 2 reps in reserve, their technique can change so drastically from a certain rep range. And so in my experience, I did it, absolute disaster. And so I found where I could use and that was very useful. Like you said, person X has had a bad day, cool, their strength work, their squatting is going to be more applicable towards that. But a lot of their technical work when the driver is speed strength, cool, percentage and ranges has been the most benefit.
Yeah, and just to caveat this whole percentage conversation for anyone listening here, I will never give someone, X sets reps 76%. Never. I'll never do that. I'll give them I'll actually put the number in based on the percentages and stuff like that. All right, sweet. Steve, you got 4 questions here. I don't know if you saw my last message to yourself. I was asking you a question about question number 3 because I just couldn't really decipher it. And question number 4, I thought was actually quite a funny one. So I didn't actually construct a question because I thought it was a laugh almost, but just run us through the 4 questions here.
All right, so obviously I didn't expect you to answer all of them. I just thought I'd throw what was on my mind out there. But I said, would you program unilateral before
what
bilateral?
What am I, a fucking trash can, mate?
Yeah,
just unload all your shit onto me.
You're like a fucking big garbage truck full of information. So I thought you were just gonna fucking dump it out.
Love it, garbage truck.
So yeah, the first one was unilateral before bilateral, so barbell or machine to open up. So basically they're like, let's say hip internal rotation, contralateral load to then try and shift it that way before putting them under a barbell to learn positioning and all that sort of thing.
Yes.
And then how do you decide what tempo is too much around an exercise? I think that's pretty fucking self-explanatory. Or do you want me to?
That was the easiest one.
Different loading patterns versus conventional same reps each week. So like, how you talk about like wave loading and conjugate and non-linear fucking periodization and all that sort of shit. Or you just go conventional, like, do this many at this fucking percentage or whatever you want to do. And then just because it's all stimulus. Yeah. So that's what I was sort of alluring to there. And how long is too long to spend running program? It wasn't actually laugh, genuinely. Like sometimes I can bang out a program and then other times I think I just overthink it. So what I try and do is ask coaches who write a lot of programs, like, what's your average time? Because then I'm trying to calibrate where the fuck I'm at because I'm like, am I overcooking it or am I just, I don't know. Because like you can write a program and you could change your mind fucking 17 times overnight.
Absolutely.
So, that's what I just want to know.
All right, fantastic. So question number 3, I'll tell you right now, I do not have an answer for you, but I'm happy for actually us to have a roundtable discussion about it because I think that's quite interesting. First of all, let's go with number 1. Deacon, how do you warm people up before they start barbell lifting?
Dennis loves a warm-up.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute.
You're all right, mate.
Yeah, before warm them up, or I'm going to teach them the barbell.
They've got some barbell work. What are you going to do before they start doing the barbell work?
So generally, if we're doing like a barbell back squat, from my experience, what I'll usually do is I'll run them through just a smaller warm up, but then once I'll do something a bit more specific to the squat. So say for instance, it might be like a heel elevated, like a plate squat or something.
Like
and
a
then
counterbalance squat.
yeah, exactly, like something like that beforehand. Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, cool. No, sweet.
Mm.
What about you, Jake?
Yeah, so excuse me. Yeah, from my experience, what I've done, I've just like put them on a lighter load, like start them, not do any like warm up exercises per se. Just like say we're doing a back squat, I just like get them on with just the bar, nothing else first, and then I might do 2 or 3 sets, just warming them up, and then I'll do our actual top set.
Ramping. Yeah. Cool.
Just
Cool.
ramping.
Cool. The reason I ask because this question is definitely like it's a great question because it essentially like kind of forces you to think about how am I warming people up, and is there a different way that I could be warming people up? Alternatively, is there a way that I'm not actually thinking about that I could warm people up, for example? And I think what you're posing here, Stephen, is a fucking fantastic question. I rate very much unilateral work before bilateral as a means to teach or promote particular positions so that when they get to the barbell, we're able to achieve appropriate things, right? The things that we want happening start happening, you know? So for example, it's like when we're hinging, it'd be great if someone would understand how to actually internally rotate to flex the hip to get the hip back so they can come back through extension and actually hinge nicely, right? I do like that. The caveat is this. As an online coach, which is primarily what it is that I do, as an online coach, I do not do that much. And the reason I don't do that is because unilateral stuff is definitely on a skill spectrum harder than bilateral stuff. Because unilateral stuff means that we're looking at deviations of center of mass. We're looking at narrower basis of support. We're looking at a person has to do more work to execute the thing that we want them to do. If I was to give someone like a B stance, stagger stance, retro stance, whatever, RDL with a contralateral load before we're doing a hinge, right? There are so many things that might not actually occur, even if I gave them that constraint or just gave them that exercise. You know, and then it's like, I'll have to see a video of that. And then next week, I might be able to correct 1 or 2 things. And then the week after that, I might have to correct another thing. The week after that, we might be actually doing it properly. And now I've just spent potentially 3 warm-up or prep sort of before sessions, not actually achieving the task that I would like to do. If I'm in person, you fucking bet I do this sort of stuff, man. I love that, right? Because I can coach, instantly correct, problem solve, troubleshoot then and there to make sure that the right things are occurring, okay? So as an online coach, I typically don't like this purely from that perspective. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, I guess from my experience, even though I obviously asked the question, but it's like a common one that you used was with the B stance RDL is I use that to try and teach mid-foot pressure before they move into a hinge because most people either load into the heel or the center of mass is so far fucking forward that they'll be on their toes.
Absolutely.
So I find it as a good way is I'll like program and I'll go contralaterally loaded B stance RDL, find mid-foot pressure. And that's the only cue I'll give. And then I let them hinge until they find that mid-foot pressure. And then I just fucking chuck them on a bar.
No, that's fantastic. It's just that, like, even though when we give people constraints, we could give someone a B stance, contralaterally loaded RDL. We can have the front foot elevate or front toe elevated, rear heel elevated. Like we can put it, or rear foot, like wall reference. We can put them in such a large constraint and we still might, like, success isn't guaranteed still, you know, but in person, it's like, it's super easy. But that's pretty much it, the time cost thing. Let's kind of like, and to prove, not to prove my point, I shouldn't say that because I'm not trying to prove a point here. But to, I guess, open up this conversation further, you know, can someone tell me which one of these is harder and why?
A is harder because there's more than one stimulus.
Bro, that's classic. All right, Steve, you're mute. Someone else. Anyone, can anyone tell me which is harder and why? Matt.
Probably B.
Why?
Because you're running.
Nah, don't give me that shit, mate.
I'm a powerlifter. Running's hard.
Come on, dude. People are paying $100 a week, bro. You better fuck tell them why running is harder than walking.
Because I don't. Cardiovascular health is hard.
It's boring. I get it.
No, it's not.
You can take a pass. I understand it's just running. If you can't think about it, that's totally okay. Can anyone else?
No, I'm trying to think like what you're pointing towards.
Is it applied force? Is that what you're trying to point towards?
No, I just want you guys to look at these two pictures. We're going to walk and a run. Which one is harder and why? Which one's harder to do? Steve, you out of all, as a prescript disciple, should nut this one out in an instant.
Yeah, I thought it was like, I mean, I'm going to say fucking A still.
Why?
More than one stimulus, bro. He's fucking trying to control his center of mass. He's looking down. He's got perturbations. He's fucking not 100% on the task. He's got a cap on. Man, I'm a neuro freak. I love it. So
all right, look, I couldn't actually just get a photo of a dude just walking that looks similar. He hasn't got a phone, and he's not wearing a backpack, he's not wearing a hat.
Is he looking where he's going?
Oh, well, fucking, you've changed the whole script, haven't you?
Surely you got to learn to walk before you can run. So wouldn't you think the running would be harder?
In hell, the man with the brains. Out of all these brains here, you're the one with the actual brain. Why is the B harder?
Because I don't walk
less,
when I lift,
like,
squat, bench, and deadlift.
You got less reaction time between
It's
movement
like
and
learn to
applied force is
drive.
greater.
Yeah, okay.
I'm
What's that,
dumb.
Deacon?
I lift weights.
I was just thinking, like, surely it'd be the same as like learn to drive. You know, like I get my learners, and you put me in a Ferrari, I'm not going to be able to control it.
Okay.
So it'd be like a similar thing.
Fantastic. Jake, have you got something out here?
I don't know. Running's more. I'm with Matt's idea. Running's just more like taxing, more aerobic work to do than walking. So
Yeah.
But
Yep.
if you can't walk, you're not going to be able to run.
Yes. Mooch.
yeah,
Which one's harder and why?
I don't have context to this. I can't answer this question. I don't really know what you're getting at.
We're still on question number 1 here. We're talking about unilateral. We're talking about bilateral. Which one's harder?
Both.
it's
When you're
uni-
walking, you're bilateral.
You're
Yeah.
definitely unilateral still, but there's a reference point.
There is, yeah. You've got at least some type of support.
You've got Steve, base support, wide, narrow, or more of it.
Yeah. Obviously, greater base of support, but you've also got a deviated center of mass and all that sort of shit too, man.
Stop looking at the backpack and the phone. All right, lads. B is harder purely from the these two perspectives. This one is, although walking is relatively dynamic still, in reference or relative to this one would be a static posture. This one would be a dynamic posture. This one has reference points. Although that you might be working in the frontal plane and is unilateral to a degree, there is a reference point. This one here, there is no reference point. There's one reference point, and that is just pretty much this here, okay? So it's like what we're talking about here is bilateral sagittal. Wow. Bilateral unilateral. Can anyone see the parallels that I'm drawing here? Although you can have unilateral options that are kickstand, retro step, B stance, and whatever else, typically speaking, unilateral challenges the body in a way that we would probably be seeing in something like a run. Can anyone add to that?
Because it's reciprocal in nation.
No, it's because it's heavily reliant on your ability to manage your body in space far more than what you would when you have this a reference point or 2 feet.
Proprioceptive, or your proprioceptive awareness.
that.
So you basically your ability to motor pattern based off your awareness.
So when we talk about sensory motor competencies from this standpoint, open or teacher position, this is where we're going at. So although unilateral stuff can absolutely, and I do use it to open the teacher position, I said success isn't guaranteed. And the reason why success isn't guaranteed isn't just because they might not be able to do it straight off the bat first go, but because that's not how sensory motor competency works. There is a bit of a sequence that we do have to follow. We don't have to follow it. Sorry, a lie. But one that makes a little bit more logical sense. Which one's harder?
Oh, the fucking walking lunge.
Right. Wrong, Steve. She's not walking. It's a static lunge, actually.
Oh, well, the
Body weight
I'm
squat,
gonna,
actually.
I'm
Body
going
weight
to say the
squat.
body weight squat then. Yeah.
100% body weight squat because it's fucking like
Base of support's closer. So you've got a smaller base of support.
Well, you don't actually know how wide she is.
Nah.
No, she looks fit.
Wide stance.
Have you ever tried to do a body weight squat?
Yes,
fucking
I'm actually
hard.
quite good at them.
I'll walk lunge any day.
Jake, which one's harder? Teaching someone how to squat on 2 feet or teach someone to squat on 1 foot and manage their center of mass at the same time?
I would say B personally, because
Deacon?
I would say B would be harder. I would say that A is probably more like obviously it's sagittal, but with the B, because you're kind of like shifting to one side, would you nearly say that like they got to be able to control the frontal plane?
Yep. There's definitely more frontal plane competency required here. Jake, what was your rationale?
yeah, that, and also there's just like a higher balance component. So you're more likely, there's less stability in a lunge rather than a squat.
I mean, potentially she's still got 2 feet on the ground. There are reference points. Base support is still quite wide, even if she had a wide stance here. But technically speaking, like this one would be a little bit harder because it is on one side, like it's dominating one side of the body. Like one side of the body is experiencing a proportionally large amount of challenge compared to the other side, right? So again, like from a sensory motor competency standpoint, I'm still referring here to, should we go unilateral before barbell to teach position open positions? Perhaps not. That's all I'm trying to show there, Steve. It's like the other side of the puzzle when it comes to, like I said, sensory motor competency. Like you start static and you start bilateral and you start sagittal. It's like if you get those things done and you do those first and you get them done well, then your potential to do the subsequent stuff has significantly increased because you actually have the ability to center your body in space in various different ways. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So what is something like, is there something you do for the upper body that you might do to teach or open a position?
Like arm training obviously is one of them. I'll do that I'll even do arms like pre-legs for some people. But also like what do you
That's
call
a
it?
sick workout.
Yeah, well, people don't want to do their fucking rehab, so you just give them arms, and they're like,
Yeah.
"I'll do this all day."
Yeah.
But mainly like I guess a landmine. Like I'll use a landmine at the start to obviously
For what?
to train the reach pattern realistically. So to get the scapular-thoracic rhythm moving, give them access to a lower degree of shoulder flexion before they try and press overhead. Also, it's going to train like rotator cuff function over rotator cuff action.
Yep.
And then I'll also use it as, I guess, some sort of a like posterior expansion, thoracic rotation drill at the same time too. So yeah, I don't mind that. I don't mind doing it before a dip. Sorry, not a dip, a fucking neutral grip pull up, just to get them adjusted to the range, and then obviously, do that
Absolutely.
first.
So what is that landmine press before the upper body pulling or pushing exercise is doing exactly? That's going to contribute to that exercise.
Integrating function,
Integrating function of
the shoulder.
right. So sorry, the reason I'm asking here is obviously like to give more context to the lads that might not actually think of it this way, sort of thing. So Deacon and Jake, does that kind of make sense? Why you might want to do some of those sort of things?
Yeah.
Sorry. So I thought you were like trying to go somewhere with it, but to explain it, like realistically, I do that because it's a low, like obviously you can't landmine press fucking next to anything if you have the right restrict, like if you do it properly. But it's a way to, I guess, mobilize, facilitate, increase stability, do all that sort of shit with like one exercise rather than giving them 20 prep drills to do before they go and fucking do something.
Yeah. Mudge, do you have anything to add?
Most importantly, it's load. Load got you there. Load's going to get you out of there.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, nah.
Sure. So if you're finding quote unquote trying to correct a shape or neutralize the shape of the body, these things will definitely help, sort of thing. But like you were saying, Steve, like just promote certain ranges, certain functions, all that kind of stuff. I think very, very valuable. If you can justify doing anything, then it's justified, and you should do it. But obviously the question was posed to me, and like I said to you, man, it's like I definitely take the perspective of, as an online coach, I'm just going to do bilateral stuff first. If I'm in person, unilateral stuff for sure. But I definitely do subscribe to the notion of start static, start bilateral, sagittal, and then start moving into subsequent sort of
And that's typically how I programmed it, was like do the heavy shit because then that was going to be my, I guess I was expecting you to say something around this, but I wasn't sure if you were looking from your perspective of obviously powerlifting is like doing a unilateral movement is going to induce some level of fatigue before
Uh-huh.
then moving to their main movement. So then I was like, okay, would you not do that for that reason? That you're like, well, I don't want to fucking waste juice on unilateral shit when I could just send it on a barbell.
The perspective that I come from it, as it relates to powerlifting, would be like this. It's like unilateral things. Could we agree that unilateral things promote expansion?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Right. And so as a powerlifter, I don't want to promote expansion before a fucking exercise. You know, like I actually want to promote stiffness. And so for powerlifters, I'm just like, dude, obviously it varies. Something like, do you guys know who Matt Wenning is? Anyone? No. It might be something. It's definitely not Matt Wenning's thing, but I picked this up like 10 years ago and I was like, this is fantastic. And it all makes sense now when I look at it from like a stiffness point of view. It's like if someone's bench pressing, it's like I want bicep, tricep, and lat pumps. Choose 3 exercises, 3 sets, anywhere between 10 and 20 repetitions. Get a filthy fucking pump. You, boy, are going to get so stiff at a very, very low cost of fatigue purely because the rep range is so high and the intensity is going to be, obviously appropriate to that. There's not too much volume. Like that's something that I could be looking at. Otherwise, I'm definitely thinking about stiffening before the barbell from a powerlifting perspective. And then if we need to, quote unquote, neutralize to alleviate maybe some symptoms at the low back or hip or what have you, then I might actually, we'll do the unilateral thing second order in the session. Because if you did a third, too cooked by that point to actually fucking control anything. So when I was talking about competencies, it was pretty much like this. It's like, start static before dynamic, start sagittal before frontal, bilateral before unilateral, short levers before long levers. And like, you'd look at that and go, yeah, obviously, like, no shit, Sherlock. But that was kind of like the simplicity at which my mind went to when you posed that question. I was like, yeah, fuck, like I could rationalize unilateral stuff so many different ways. But I'm like, at the end of the day, this is really still how I look at movement. And that's what I employ. Any questions so far? Cool. Do you think that gave you something, Steve?
Yeah, man. Yeah, absolutely. Like,
Yeah,
I guess
absolutely.
it's just, I think too, in a rehab, like, not in a rehab setting, but like any sort of pain management setting, I think we tend to also baby it a little bit. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think we kind of try and put as many roadblocks between the person and whatever their main movement is. Because I'm like, oh, I just want them to fucking pump the brakes. But it's like, probably sometimes we just need to fly close to the sun and either get a tan or get burned.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I like that. Obviously, there's 2 videos here of some non-impressive bench presses. Just 120 here on the left-hand side, 100 kilos on the right-hand side. I'm using these to express 2 things, right? We're talking about tempo because Stephen's question was, how would you decide what tempo is too much around an exercise? Tempos are great, and I assume that we all kind of probably on the same page. Deacon, do you use tempos?
Yeah, I do. Not all the time, but
Yeah.
like if say for instance, they need to work on the eccentric phase or something, and they'll definitely put in a tempo.
When you say they need to work on the eccentric phase, what do you mean by that?
So like say for instance, I know they're doing like a dumbbell bench press and
Yep.
they can't really control the way down. So then maybe in the next block or the next set, I'll get them to focus on working at like I don't know, 3 to 4 second down.
Okay. So you might
Yeah.
actually prescribe a tempo because you're looking at them unable to control the movement.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially. Yeah. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah. What if I said this to you? What if they were unable to control the movement because they might not be strong enough?
Then I'd just make the load lighter, I guess. But yeah, for sure, that makes sense too.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. So obviously, when it comes to tempos and say building muscle, there's definitely a different conversation. But if we talk about tempos, I like to think of tempos as skill, something skill orientated, right? And when I'm talking about skill, I'm talking about like a position. So when it comes to the SBD or powerlifting, these things are heavily reliant on a skill, an expression of, I guess, the lower and the upper bodies, essentially, right? Coordination happening. And there's a lot of moving parts. And so essentially, if you think of a tempo, it does some pretty fucking nice things to us. So as you can see here, it's like, if we look at this tempo, I think it's only like a 4 count tempo, like a 4 second tempo, whatever else. But it's like, you can clearly see that things are holding position to a really, really good degree. Not too bad. And then we look at the this one over here, there's no tempo. And you can obviously see that there is some sort of inefficiency happening. There's a little bit too much movement happening for anyone's liking. Now, you guys might look at this one here and be like, oh, it's fucking not too bad. No, that's horrific. The thing that I'm seeing is like my knees are going forward. As soon as the bar touches my chest, knees go forward. Okay, I'm obviously seeing that I'm actually not holding thoracic extension and I'm not applying heels into the ground. I'm not actually thinking about that. So tempo then actually starts to yield a net result of, if I'm decreasing the tempo, what do you think is going to happen?
No, you're going to decrease the quality of movement.
If I add a tempo, what's going to happen?
Load decrease.
Yeah,
load's going to decrease, but what does that mean from a skill perspective?
you're going to learn more.
Right.
Awareness, puts a focus on it. Spotlight.
Awareness. Right. I'm just going to go this one here. When we look at the skill and the tempo, there's an order of consequence of the tempo, right? Like the tempo isn't just quote unquote time and attention. That's bizarre. That is such a broad stroke, and it pretty much means fucking nothing, right? It's like we need to apply just a little bit of context to what that actually means. So the tempo from a skill perspective, as it relates to the SBD, is something a little bit like this. If we have a tempo, the first thing that we're looking for, we're not actually looking for this, but this is just by default and nature going to happen. A tempo is going to increase or promote or suggest vestibular feedback, which is just an understanding where your body is at space and how and everything else that it needs to do or is doing at that point in time. Because of the increased vestibular feedback, because you actually have time to process and manage things, then the awareness of the challenge is going to increase. And what I mean by that is if I'm doing a bench press and I'm doing a tempo, the vestibular feedback is then going to suggest to me that I understand the cues or understand the position I need to hold. I need to hold leg drop. I need to hold a high arch. So as a result of that, right, I'm now going to have an awareness of what challenge that the barbell is implying on me. It's implying as I'm lowering the barbell that my chest wants to drop, i.e. I'm losing the arch, and that I want to relax my legs because it's a lot of work. So the awareness of the challenge now becomes exacerbated. As a result of that becoming exacerbated, then I can actually consciously choose to go, you know what, fuck this. Because I'm now aware of the position that I find myself in, I can actually start to strategize and reinforce that position, which will lead into execute with a degree of proficiency or more proficiency. So the idea of tempoing SBD work isn't just to always just to limit load. That's going to come by default. But it's for a very particular strategy, and it's to essentially go through this little feedback sequence here. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to, I guess, ask them, obviously, because like where I learned a fair chunk of like programming and things like that is that every lift was tempoed. So like regardless of like, because obviously using eccentrics and things like that are allowed, like can change like your sarcomere length and do all that sort of shit. And it can, start to promote different, obviously like allowing someone to get into a full reach or something like that. You can start to do that. But the reason I asked this question originally was purely because it was like, I found when I'm writing a program, and this probably actually even then relates into the fourth one, is it's like you tempo fucking everything and you have to type that out into fucking 6 weeks of shit and then get it done. It's just like, I don't know. I was like, is this actually fucking necessary? Or do you just want someone to, do you just tell them like, hey, control the weight sort of thing? Like, I don't know. So do you save it for your barbell skill stuff or do you use it for everything?
Yeah, good question. And it's like the reason I had this slide here is because like, I would never prescribe a tempo on a fucking dumbbell hammer curl. But you know what this guy got next week? He's got tempo descending, like tempo eccentricals in here. Because I want this guy to actually have some sort of, by the way, he's one of my clients and he's cool with me using this, by the way. But as you can see here, it's like, he's going to get a pretty sweet stimulus here. He got a mad bicep pump. As you can see, he's got pretty big arms, right? So what he's been doing so far, he's getting away with it. And then we look at my hammer curl here. This is not tempoed. This is just controlled. This is just awareness. But the awareness is actually implying that I'm actually placing a pretty decent amount of stimulus on the desired musculature, right? So I don't actually tempo anything, and I really don't like tempoing too much accessory work or hypertrophy stuff. But in circumstances like this, I could say to him, "Hey, just control a little bit more." And me saying, "Hey, just control it a bit more," this is what I received, right? So it's like now I actually might start using that strategy as a tempo on bodybuilding stuff. But other than that, like, I don't know how much, I don't actually use much tempo work for accessories or the hypertrophy work. But for the SBD, the only time that I use the tempo is if it's needed. because I'm under the same impression. If you don't need a fucking tempo, don't tempo. Like tempo's
'cause
unenjoyable.
when I write my own programs, it's like I don't put a tempo in because I obviously know for me what I'm trying to achieve. So I'm just like, yeah, sweet, this is what I'm trying to do. And like I'm going to move with whatever competency I think I need to at the time. And I'm obviously pretty self-aware. But I think what I've started to find is that a lot of people were like load was being sacrificed because they were like, they're trying to count shit out or they're trying to adhere to a tempo. And I'm like, I just don't want you to lift it like a spastic, basically. Like I just want you to train. But I was like, do I have to keep giving them the tempo because I don't want them to lift like a spastic? Like as soon as I take that break off, are they going to do dumb shit? Or I just, yeah.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying there, man. If this helps in any way, I would be like, so do you actually write tempo in pretty much all your exercises or most of them?
Bro, if I fucking showed you my sheet right now, you'd laugh. And if that's your response,
Why are you so fixated on tempo and position?
I think it's because it came from obviously like a rehab background more so for me. Because like I said, you try and do different, you try and achieve different results rather than just building muscle and moving weight. It's like I'm trying to get them to feel what it's like to be eccentrically loaded into an overhead. I'm trying to get like more lat length. I'm trying to get them to keep their fucking chest down. Like I'm trying to get them to keep their pump handle down while they do it. It's like all those sorts of things. So that's why I typically use it for everything. But I was just looking at it when I was writing someone's program the other day, and I was like, this is fucking dumb.
Yeah. Mudge, do you have anything to add on this tempo conversation?
Yeah, use it when you need it because, as you said, you can just
I just
overdo
said
it.
that.
Yeah, that's my main one. Yeah, absolutely.
Steve, I think I think having them do these things without you prescribing, or should I say, like barring the gates with tempos. Do you think it'd be a far more enjoyable experience for them if they weren't constrained by tempos with absolutely everything they did? And then you could just slowly over time correct one or two things, or is time of the essence here that you need them to be displaying certain things ASAP? Because it's like,
it'd be a fucking heaps better experience for everyone involved, to be honest. Because
right,
fuck, I almost cringe at writing programs, man, because
Yeah.
I know I've got to
'Cause I
program
think-
tempos on it.
I was going to add to, sorry, Dennis. I was going to add to that. Tempo, like a lot of the times when I use it, it's a load restriction, and so it's like a lot of those qualities that we're after, whether it be hypertrophy and things like that. You want proximity to failure, or a load that's moderately heavy. The tempo might risk them of not actually getting the desired adaptation that you're after. Because I used to be like much more like safe orientated with my lifters because I was so new to it, and I was like, all right, I need to add a tempo so that they're controlled squat. And then what I found was I wasn't exposing them to higher loads, and then in the end they're not getting stronger, and I'm like, fuck, what's going on here?
Yeah, and that's where like I kind of ran into it because I only had the thought, I guess now, obviously it's like, the more you learn, the less you realize all this fucking matters realistically. Like just lift weights, get jacked, look good. But
Deacon Jake,
like,
you didn't hear that. You didn't hear that.
but like that's the thing is I was sitting there and I kind of wondered why with like online coaching, I was like, my retention's not as high. Like once people see out the original, whatever, seek out the original agreement or whatever. And I was like, fuck, it does have a lot around like training and tracking and all this shit. And it's like, fuck, I don't even do that like for myself because I know like I can regulate enough. I've trained long enough that I can go and train. And I can remember what I've done so I can do that. And I was like, it does put a lot of, I guess, mental fatigue just even in a day's training. And it's like, you might think it's packaging up as like, I used to think it was packaging up as being like, this is very specific. And then people like that because they think their injuries are fucking special snowflake. But then I was like, there's also creating a massive fucking barrier to entry of training here.
And not only that, it's a tool that you can potentially use later on, right? Initially, you're getting to them because they're coming to you for a specific problem and they're already motivated to follow your stuff. And as your blocks go on, that's kind of where I start to introduce these more advanced, concepts, whether it be drop sets, myo sets, those kinds of things. It's a new stimulus for them. Now I'm, sorting out that psychological thing. They're like, fuck, this guy's giving me a new strategy. I've never seen this before. But realistically, I'm not giving them everything at the start, and then I've got nothing to give.
Yeah, and then that was it because it's like, you go into someone and you have like exercise selection. So you've got like supersets, you got rest periods, you got your RPE, you've got fucking tempo, all that shit. And I was like, holy fuck, like there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of moving parts. It's like for someone who's obviously just wants to get jacked, it's not going to fucking. It's going to create more of a barrier to entry, if anything. I think
because you know you can do some fucking God's work, man. By if you didn't tempo everything, and like you're saying there, it's like your opportunity to retain people for a long duration of time is reliant on you being two things: you being a good cunt, and you prolonging their experience, right? And like prolonging their experience, like if you did this and you packaged up this really fucking specific program, the longevity of that is not very high. Whereas if you package up this program with one exercise per session, this is such a example, one exercise per session as a tempo, as opposed to all of them. And then in the next block, you can remove that tempo from that exercise and then put another exercise as tempo. And now, like over the course of 12 to 24 months, they've gone through this massive suite of learning positional control and all this kind of stuff over such a large spectrum of exercises. They've stayed with you for the entire time because they trust you, because they know that you deliver a fucking good service. But it's like they didn't rush. They're not rushing to go there. You are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 100%. And that's what I mean. It's just, this has kind of been like, if anything, like it's just a clarity thing now, because it's like everything I thought is now reinforced. Right. It's like, there's a reason why I've thought that way.
Right. If we're just going to top off this tempo conversation, because you asked what's too much tempo? And I'm just going to put out two examples here, a 5 and a 3 second tempo. They are probably the most common ones. There are definitely longer tempos and shorter tempos. A 5 second tempo, in my experience, is a little bit too fucking long. Vestibular feedback is high. Position awareness is high. Challenge awareness is high. But because they're so fucking high, the position is actually low. And then the proficiency becomes lower.
Yeah.
Because it just gets higher and higher and higher. And then this just kind of suffers as a result of that. Whereas something like a 3 second tempo, sometimes I'll write a 4 count tempo or a 3 second tempo, what have you. I try to stay within the 3 second range. We've got vestibular feedback is high. Awareness position is high. As a result of that, the challenge and the awareness of that challenge isn't like, oh my God, this feels so fucking heavy because it's so slow. It's actually not too bad. So it's quite low. Then we start to see reinforcement of position and proficiency as a result of that. So when it comes to too long or too short, there is, I think, definitely too long, purely from that perspective. Does that make sense?
Yeah, man. Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna have to duck now, but I'll catch the rest up on the YouTube.
Yeah, Jet, I appreciate it, man. Thank you very much. Thank you. See you, mate. All right, Deacon, Jake, I do apologize that we're here. I did not anticipate this to go so fucking long. Are you all good?
Yeah, I gotta run relatively soon as well, but I'll try to start this one.
All right. Well, this is probably okay, cool. No. So you've got two questions here. Performance benefits of powerlifters doing cardio, and then benefits of toes elevate RDL. So let's just dig right into it because they're relatively fucking clear questions.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times when you hear powerlifters or just lifters in general, when we talk about cardio, people like to throw out a whole bunch of things as to why it's beneficial. Increased oxygen uptake, increased fucking recoverability, increased intra-set recoverability, inter-session recoverability, health, increased mitochondria. Bro, the list could go so fucking long. But the thing is, it's not actually that black and white. It's not that clear. If someone, and this is going to be a start point, if someone comes in with a pretty poor cardiovascular system, dude, they are absolutely going to notice with even just a little bit of cardio, they're going to notice an increase of inter-set recoverability, meaning between their sets. You know what I mean? They might actually have a bit more juice to squeeze. They might actually notice that they're recovering a little bit quicker between sessions. And they might notice just generally they're just feeling fitter, healthier and stuff like that.
Mm.
If someone comes through and they start doing cardio or they want to do more cardio and they've got a decent cardiovascular base, or they used to even have a decent cardiovascular base, what I find is that actually inter-set recoverability doesn't change. It's still the same. Inter-session recoverability is still the fucking same. I'm actually, for me to actually have these things be on the increase and the uptrend, I'm actually managing literally training stimulus, not cardio here, right? But they'll notice general health improvements. So that's to start there. They're the differentiators. Someone's got a poor cardiovascular ability. Any sort of cardio is going to fucking promote lots and lots of gains. right now. There's a crew in Melbourne, and then they're big on cardio and lifting right now, and they're spruiking. You can fucking do both. You absolutely can. But then when we see the data of their run times or what have you, they are so unfit, or they came from a position or a place where they were so unfit. No shit that they're noticing improvements that they can actually do everything still. That's because their cardio base is so low. Alternatively, if you've got someone like me or Mudge, for example, our cardio bases are quite high. Us just doing more cardio, we might not actually notice either of these two, but we might actually just feel better about ourselves. You know what I'm saying? How much time do you have exactly?
I've got about like 20 minutes. I've got still got heaps of time. So got
Alright.
a fair chunk of time.
All right. Are there any questions so far?
No, that's all. Yeah, that all makes sense.
Relatively straightforward stuff, right?
Yeah.
When I look at powerlifters, because you said powerlifters, and so we'll just talk about powerlifters. When I look at the cardio, I do like to break it up into these two categories here: a similar category and dissimilar. Now, the similar category is going to be comprised of things that are like this: high tension. So what I mean by high tension is if I place you under a heavy squat barbell, do you think you're going to be loose, or you're going to be pretty tight?
I'm gonna be pretty tight.
When you go through the concentric phase of that squat and it's a heavy barbell, do you think you're going to have a lot of tension, or are you still going to be relatively tight, relaxed?
I'm gonna be
tight. Right.
Tight.
So tight. So that tightness, I guess we can attribute the tightness to tension, right, at the muscular level, even at the blood level, but we don't have to go there. So similar is things that are of high tension, hard contractions, right? So think about that squat again. You're coming up from a squat and it's a heavy barbell, you're going to want to fucking contract hard. And then there's hard and fast here, and hard and fast is actually the conditioning piece of the equation. But similar for a powerlifter, what that means is that I made a post about this where I called it the physiological signature. Because they spend so much time lifting heavy barbells and the environment, the circumstances they find themselves in an environment of high tension and hard contractions, right? And that becomes their norm. They start to actually express these things all the fucking time in everything they do, right? You put a powerlifter who hasn't done any conditioning on an assault bike and tell him to chill and cruise for the next 10 minutes, he probably will, without even noticing, probably create more tension and contract harder than what he actually needs to. He doesn't even know how to do that, right? So then conditioning for powerlifters as an entry level, in my opinion, looks like things that are hard and fast, right? Because it's similar. The cardio they might be doing that's hard and fast might be assault bike sprints, right? Might be heavy sled pushes, might be hammering tires, flipping tires, etc. Right? You might have seen this on my posts. So those sort of cardio options that are hard and fast means that they're short in nature, because a powerlifter doesn't really know how or can work for long periods of time, and they allow them to express the things that they're already good. So that's similar. And the reason why I say start similar is because that which is most dissimilar is most fatiguing, right? There's so much more to the equation, but let's keep going. The dissimilar thing now looks like low tension, low contraction, long and slow stuff. So just think of like someone chilling on a rower, say, for example, for 30 minutes. Do you think that the tension there is high?
No, I wouldn't say so, no.
Do you think if they were contracting hard for the first 5 minutes and pulling as hard as they can with the resistance at number 10, so they could last 30 minutes?
No.
Right. So by default, the environment that we're creating there with the long and slow, dissimilar type of cardio is we're promoting low tension, low contraction, because that's how we're going to do it. Sorry. Any questions so far?
No, that actually kind of makes sense for me, because I don't do like much cardio as I used to. And I found if I try to go for a 15-20 minute run, I just barely get through it. But I'll do like a class at F45, just like a random shitty hit session. I'd get through it like pretty breezy.
Sweet, because you've got hard and fast stuff. It is relatively like the hard and fast stuff. There's a category that sits in the middle, and we can talk about that category. Woods, I know your eyes are twitching.
No.
But the F45 stuff is typically like, there's hard bouts of work, high tension, hard contractions for a short period of time, rest. And it is repeatable for 45 minutes, but I doubt you can repeat that for an hour and a half.
No.
But yeah, so there's parallels that you can draw from there. Now, as I was just saying, like the similar stuff from a powerlifting perspective, obviously, if this was a marathon runner, then similar stuff would be this shit. Dissimilar stuff would be this stuff, right? You get a marathon runner in the gym doing assault bike sprints and heavy barbells, they're going to get stiff, they're going to get real sore, and it's going to take them a while to recover. But if you get that marathon runner to go out for a 3.5 hour chill pace run, they're groovy. They can do that tomorrow, probably the day after again. See what I'm saying?
Mm.
So that's kind of how I'm breaking up the similar and dissimilar stuff based on physiological signatures. The way to progress these things, and this is where it becomes a little bit tricky, because ideally, we want a powerlifter who kind of lives in this realm to get the benefits of the opposite end. But we want to take them to that point. Now, I'm not saying that cardio for powerlifters should be similar stuff. It's like, no. This is the entry point. This is the entry point. Then there's that little bit in the middle that we'll talk about, because the idea is you actually want to get them to here. But if we just go boom straight here, as a result of similar being low tension, low contraction, long and slow, as a result of things being continuous, rhythmic, and long bouts of work, as a result of the way to progress this long and slow stuff is through volume, you can now see how such a large quantity of something that is so dissimilar could now very quickly become problematic and fatiguing as a result of that. And a powerlifter doesn't want to boycott powerlifting. He wants to remain powerlifting, but he wants to get fitter. So there's a bit of a process that you kind of want to go through. And I'm just finding this is the easiest process. Start similar, bridge the gap over time. We can end up being very dissimilar, and we can actually do long and slow cardio aerobic stuff and still maintain really, really high degrees and quality of powerlifting work, right? You progress the similar stuff, the short and hard stuff, with intensity, right? And the other one, volume. Do you have any questions, Deacon?
Nah, bro. That makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah, cool. Do you want to add anything there?
No, the most important part, what Dennis has basically said, is exercise selection. So, for example, you just mentioned there, Jake, that running, you went for a run and you became relatively sore. You just didn't have the capacity to do so. And it's the same, for example, I said this on the previous call, me and another guy in Roba, Louis, we actually tested this. So we used a Moxie, and Moxie essentially measures how much hemoglobin's in your blood, how much oxygen's in your blood, right? So I went for a 15-minute run. Louis went for a 15-minute run. Louis is the energetics guy. He's a lot more cardiovascular fit. I'm an Olympic weightlifter. I'm more of a strength-orientated weightlifter. Strength-orientated lifter. Who do you think used oxygen the quickest, me or Louis?
I would say you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I watched that one, so
Yeah, you know the answer. Yeah, you did. Yeah,
Great.
yeah. And the reason I used that example was, essentially you running, you're in high tension, but you're in high tension now for basically 20, 30 minutes. Whereas if you exposed yourself to, little bits, it's dissimilar enough to what you're not used to, but it's starting to teach you to become low tension as opposed to you just going straight into the wall.
Right.
So exercise selection, yeah.
Yeah, and that exercise selection fits in hard but repeatable. I think that's
Difficult
like
but repeatable, yeah.
Difficult but repeatable, right? So essentially, it's like doing those things that are so dissimilar. From a powerlifting perspective, we need to find things that are continuous in nature, rhythmic in nature, and long work. So, do you know why I'd want continuous and rhythmic? So that could be like slam balls, thrusters, even running to a degree. If it's a rower, assault bike, ski erg, sled pushing, pulling, so many different things. Why am I looking for continuous and rhythmic sort of expressions?
I was thinking this the other day. I had an answer in my head. It's not getting to me. I just think oh no, I don't have it.
Right.
I was
So
like just for
that's
that.
okay. The reason we're looking for exercises that are that put this person in a position where they can be continuous and rhythmic, i.e., take note of exercise selection, is because we want them to have low tension, low contraction, and work for prolonged periods of time. Right?
Yeah.
Because if we chose exercises that didn't allow them to be continuous and rhythmic, actually, we'd take a barbell thruster, for example. A barbell thruster, give that to a powerlifter at first instance, he's going to muscle the shit out of that, and he will not be able to be continuous or rhythmic. He might look continuous and do rep after rep after rep, but every single rep, he's going to contract so fucking hard, create so much tension that it's not going to be repeatable in a conditioning AMRAP, EMOM, what have you. You know what I mean? He's not going to be able to sustain that because it's creating high tension, high contraction. So rhythmic and continuous is like that there is as an underpinning to, you can choose exercises that are what we call cyclic or global in nature. Global means that it's an exercise that allows not just one part of the body to do all of the fucking work. It allows for the body to work in a harmonious way, that everything that loves being shared around. So that there's no particular part of the body that is pumping harder than the other. Can you see what I mean by that? Right?
Yeah.
So like a kettlebell swing, I would argue that there'd be a part of the body that would be working harder than anything else, right? A wall ball, on the other hand, pretty cool. Now we can see like the lower and the upper body kind of managing and working this parallel to get the job done. And it doesn't necessarily mean that one might be working harder than the other. Or we can even use constraints. It's like, here's a barbell thruster. I want you to do a thrust and I want you to rest for 3 to 5 seconds at the top between everything repetition. By doing that, we're then forcing a low tension, low contraction environment. But I digress. So we're looking to start similar and make our way towards dissimilar. These are the things that are underpinning. Would it be helpful if I gave you this so you could actually like look at this in another time?
Yeah, I
Like
reckon
as a bit of a framework.
Yeah, it might be useful actually.
Yeah.
Definitely.
The recoverability, like I said, that which is most dissimilar is most fatiguing. So the recoverability, if we start powerlifter with things that are similar in nature, recoverability is high. But the recoverability is high because not only because it's physiologically similar, but because the volume is low as well. So although that the similar stuff, if we looked at the short and hard stuff, that they are technically quite fatiguing, but because they share resemblance to the physiological signature of the powerlifter, they're actually not too different. They're actually quite similar. And as a result of that, they're able to recover from it. But of course, you wouldn't give people sprints every single day. You might give them sprints once or twice a week sort of thing. But recovery, on the other hand, if we were to give them dissimilar stuff, low tension, long and slow, etc., the recoverability will be quite low because you have to progress this stuff via volume. Right?
Yeah.
So it just makes it even more fucking dissimilar. I wrote performance here as a reminder that if we're working with lifters who still want to keep getting stronger and remain strong, that is their goal. They might be like, I want to do some cardio and get fitter and stuff. Cool, no fucking worries. If you get them weaker, they won't be happy about it. So the idea is to merge that gap, bridge that gap, whilst keeping them stronger and still getting them stronger. So that's why I use this we now use this dissimilar sort of approach where we try to get them from here to here, right? But the thing is that not everyone actually needs zone 2. You can still get the benefits of zone 2 long and slow aerobic, technically speaking, sort of stuff in this sweet spot here, right? Just as a final sort of product there. Mudge, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, it's perfect. That summarizes that difficult but repeatable. You're in that intermiddle, what we would call, we in aerobic here, we kind of separate them into like zones. And that middle there would be like, your zone 3 and 4, which is not zone 2, but you're still getting that additional benefit from that. And as I said, Dennis has basically summarized that. It's like exercise selection and then your format for training. And constraints are beautiful. Like another movement that you could do would be a burpee, right? A burpee is relatively peripheral in nature, meaning all the blood's going towards your upper body. Now you remove the push-up, no push-up burpee. Now that becomes cyclical in nature and you're simply jumping down to that position, you're jumping back up. It now becomes global. So it's all about getting a little bit creative with your exercise selection. The kettlebell swing, turning a kettlebell swing into a dead ball over shoulder. Similar movement that you're trying to get to that pattern, but now you've changed it from something that's, peripheral in nature, blood flow in that one area, to now making it a global movement.
Yeah. Deacon, you'll learn a little bit more about this stuff when you work with Louis. But generally speaking,
Awesome.
Jake, the all of this is as a result of a lot of time spent trying to understand physiology. A lot of time spent learning, trialing, testing between the three of us to come up with this. So the conversation doesn't end here. This is merely a representation of the thought process, right? An initial framework, then constructing the sessions and actually programming and prescribing them is like it's more work that needs to be done. That's why I'm saying the conversation doesn't stop. So the framework can help, and I'll give you this and you can review it. When it comes to programming the actual stuff, I'm happy for you to actually just reach out and be like, yo, I need help. And we can go from there. Alternatively, you can play with it and then let me know if you have problems and we can troubleshoot. All right?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. We'll wrap up your one because the next one is the toes and the heels.
Yes.
Sorry, the toe elevation. Now, to begin with, I just want to understand heels up. We all understand heel elevations, yes?
Yeah.
When it comes to walking, and this is kind of like where heel elevations and toe elevations make more sense. When we're looking for heel elevations, why do you elevate heel?
I'd do it to allow the knees to go forward more and get me more work through the quads, and or also to get more upright torso during a squat.
Right. So all those things come hand in hand with one another. If you elevate the heels, you'll get the knees further forward. You'll get the knees further forward, and you'll get the hips lower, and you'll have a more upright torso. And the reason why this occurs is because we're getting someone to move their center of mass back. So you're talking about like a powerlifter as like the extended posture. Well, their center of mass is pushed forward at all times. Hence why they have such poor mobility at the shoulders and the hips as well. And generally speaking, a lot of people live in this state as well. Not to the degree of powerlifters, but with a extended posture and an anterior rotation. So anyways, so we're always like, fuck, you suck at squatting, or we want more quads. We want you to get a little bit deeper. What do we do? Heels, because that works. Why does it work? It works because it's providing an environment that is depicted here. As we walk downhill, we keep our center of mass back, right? So we're like, okay, this is exercise. If we kept our center of mass back, then we will achieve more hip flexion, more knee flexion, more dorsiflexion. How do we get our center of mass back? Oh, when we walk downhill, we do that. So let's add a ramp to mimic a downhill circumstance. Can you see how that works? Do you actually, or?
I've just never thought of it right, but yeah, that does. You pointed out that does.
There's a reason why you came onto this mentorship, dude. And then the same thing applies now with the toes up. The toes up is again taking the same thing, but it's like when we go uphill, we're looking to put the center of mass over or in front of the actual foot, right, of the stance leg.
I do see that, yeah.
What does this look like, this position here?
That's
A hinge.
That's a fucking hinge.
Hmm.
Well done, Deacon. You didn't even give him a fucking chance.
Sorry.
So we're like, cool, we need to actually get the hips back in space because that's what a hinge is. Yes, the body position is different. The knee position is different. It doesn't matter. We're trying to get the hips back in space. We're looking for horizontal displacement. To get horizontal displacement, we need a center of mass that is forwards over this stance leg. Now, if you think of a powerlifter in that extended posture who already lives pushed forwards, when they go into hinge, most of the times, they just want to fall forwards. They just want to fall forwards. And their ability to hinge is significantly reduced. I'll give you a tempo. I'll give you dumbbells. I'll put a band around your hips to force the hips to go back. Hang on a second. All we got to do is address where their center of mass is in space and provide an opportunity for them to correct that. Like I said before, it's not just powerlifters live here. Most people do. And that's why when we see people have a hard time hinging, that's because they're pushed forwards and they're falling forwards. How do we keep them back? How do we keep their hips back in space? We provide a circumstance that gives them something to lean into. Thus, we have a toe elevation. Gives you something to lean into to get the hips back in space to affect a pretty sweet hinge. Can you see how that works?
Yeah. Yes, I'm pretty. Yeah. So you promote. Yeah, promotes a stimulus where your hips are pushed back more, essentially.
Right. So
So
it provides the environment for the hips to go back.
yeah, environment. Sorry. Yeah, provides a better environment for them to push their hips back. Yeah.
Right. So heel elevations, you're walking downhill. Toe elevations, you're walking uphill.
Hmm.
Heel elevations, center of mass is back. Toe elevations, center of mass is over. So that's what it is, you know. So it essentially gives you something to lean into, so that you can keep your center of mass forwards over that working leg. Because if you didn't have something to lean into, you'd just fall over, right? And then you wouldn't hinge. You just bend at the back, and that's when people go, "Oh my god, my low back is getting jacked up." Elevate the fucking heels and watch what happens immediately. You know what I mean? Give it something to lean into, keeps the center of mass forwards over that foot, gets the hips back, gets the hams, not the erectors, and we get a proficiency of a hinge. What was your interpretation of the toes?
Mine was. I feel it was pretty simple. My idea was it was you would dorsiflex for toes. That'll in turn straighten out your knees, and so you'd feel it more in your hamstrings.
You absolutely would. And RDL this year, by the way, is not the clearest depiction of an RDL. As the weight got heavier, I would absolutely be bending my knees a little bit more. A stiff-legged deadlift has knees that are a little bit straighter. And RDL has knees that are a little bit more bent. The degree of bend, you don't need to fixate on. But we're not actually looking for knees straighter in an RDL. We're looking at what's called proximal fibers of the hamstrings, the ones closest to the hips and the glutes, to get stimulated when we're doing an RDL. This is called a lengthened position for both of those muscles. So if you can imagine, the hamstrings cross the hips and the knees. If we had the knee locked out and we then fold out the hips, the sensation is going to be fucking drastic because we're really stretching that muscle. But that's not what we're trying to do. That's not the way that we're trying to hammer the hamstrings in this particular exercise, because that's very load limiting. We actually want the knee to bend so we can actually provide some laxity of the hamstrings that cross over the knee joint, so we can maximize the stretch around the hip joint.
Yep.
And bias those proximal fibers of the hamstrings, right? But yeah, when you elevate the heels and you keep the knees straighter, the sensation is significantly increased. But I just want you to know, that's not what we're looking for.
Yeah.
Cool. Does that was very quick. Of course, I wanted to be time conscious here for you. Did those things answer your questions?
Yeah, no, that did. I never actually thought of that in regards to walking up and downhill, but that actually makes a lot of sense now that you put it that way.
Yeah.
So,
what about the conditioning stuff?
yeah, no, that's cleared that up as well. I think once I actually try to do it, I'll probably have more questions, but yeah, no,
keep sending the questions. Like I said, the conversation doesn't stop here. Okay. Cool. Deacon. Oh no, wait, this is still Jake. Right. How long should your program go for? 1, 2 months, or entire year?
Yeah,
this is an interesting conversation. Yeah, go.
Oh yeah, my idea was because I used to do like month programs, and then I've read, about people making like 6-month or a year programs. My idea is like if you do that, like I don't know what the fuck's going to happen in 6 months' time. They could break a leg or lose a limb or something like that. Like you never know. So
you may have. Oh, sorry to cut you off, mate.
Oh no, I was just saying I wanted to see like what you give your clients, like how long.
Yep. So Deacon, this is going to be a start point to your question as well.
Yeah, sweet.
So before we begin here, let's just like contextualize training and program, right? Training is the time between the start and the goal. So that entire time is training, right? A program is the structure between the start and the goal. The structure between the start and the goal. Now that structure, like you said, can be from day one to day goal. If that structure is from day one to day goal, you have totally missed the mark of programming. You have totally missed training principles that we need to employ variously at differing degrees throughout the time training to actually achieve the goal. Right. So that's the first thing, right? Having those like really prolonged training programs, silly. A training program can be entirely up to you. We use a 5-week training block. We found that a 4-week training block gets people to find momentum, and then they fucking go into the new block. Fuck, I just got momentum, new block already, right? A 5-week block is just allowing us to actually find momentum and keep momentum for at least a week or two before we transition to the next block. The momentum is the key in this entire conversation. Find momentum, keep momentum for as long as you can. But anyway, so
question.
Yeah, go for it.
Sorry. Why did you pick 5? Would 6 weeks be too long? Like,
Well, no.
Why did you stop at 5?
Right.
for that
Fantastic question, man. And the reason we chose 5 or 6, did he just say it had to go?
Yep.
Yeah, all good. Fuck. I knew when I wrote this presentation, it was like 45 slides. I thought, wow. Look, man, the reason why we chose 5 weeks is for no particular reason other than we didn't want 4 weeks and we thought 6 weeks might be a little bit too much. 5 weeks was a sweet spot from a business perspective, right? And it gives us enough time to find momentum and keep it.
Yep.
Right. We don't deload after 5 weeks. Week 1 of the next block just is at a far lesser volume and intensity. Acts like a deload.
Okay, for sure.
Anyway, if I was to answer Jake's question here, it's like, how long should the program go for? You make the time. You make that length. You just need to justify and rationalize why it's that length for you. But the idea is that you want to give yourself an opportunity to, i.e., employ a strategy for a bit of time and then be able to review it at some point in time to make adjustments and improvements into the next block, right? So it's like, if you just go, fuck, I'm just going to do 5-week blocks. Cool. At the end of every 5-week blocks, I'm going to review my strategies. Did they work? Yes. Maintain. They did not work? Great. Remove, change, now go. That's all it is. So there's no like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 week is the best. It's entirely as frequent as you want it to be. All right.
Yep.
But 4 weeks is a little bit too short because of the momentum thing. So the idea, like I said, it's like to find a structure, create momentum, and change when momentum drops, which means that a program could last for a long time. But the crux of the program, should try and go for as long as it can until you notice momentum dropping. Now, momentum can be various things. From a powerlifting perspective, momentum for me, when I'm looking at it, is intensity is either maintaining or increasing. If it starts to decrease, momentum is dropping. Repeatability throughout the week. All this sort of stuff. Like, this is what I'm talking about momentum. Like, momentum is entirely you, depending on the people you work with. But structure, momentum, change when momentum drops. Sometimes that could mean like after 4 weeks, you might have to change things so momentum is dropping because the strategies you're employing are not working, right? So if you had like an 8-week program, you wouldn't pick up on that and make the changes up until week 9, in which case you've lost a client and then been underperforming for a long time. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
Right. Because he's not here, I'm just going to go straight to your question.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Thanks.
We've been here for a long time.
2 hours.
Yeah, dude, Jesus.
Did you have coffee before this?
No, I didn't, man. No, if I had coffee after midday, I'm done. So you work with BJJ guys, right?
Yeah, I've just started to. Like, I'm helping another guy. I'm kind of like learning at the same time. But yeah, I do.
Or Serious Performance, that dude?
Yeah. That's it.
Fantastic. Yep. Cool. So I just anticipated that you're working with a BJJ person. So let's kind of kick it off there.
Yep.
Asking like a question like, how I would manage training load if I was working with a sporting athlete who needs to train multiple sessions throughout the week and get strength conditioning in. That is I couldn't possibly answer this question in like 3 slides.
Yeah.
And it'd be more of a hey, let's get on a call, open up your spreadsheet for this person. Now let's start creating this thing. And via that creative process, you'd be able to see the things that I will do. So because that isn't the case, let me try and explain it this way. Whenever you work with a sporting athlete or anyone who isn't who their goal isn't reliant on the gym, then whatever we're doing, conditioning or strength, it needs to be complementary, not insulting. So when we go, who needs to train multiple sessions throughout the week and get strength and conditioning in, the question is, do they need strength and conditioning? If yes, how much exactly?
Yeah.
If no,
Mm.
then it might not be complementary. Who knows? But the idea is to keep at the back of your mind all the time is to make sure it's always complementary, never insulting. It never takes precedence over goal number one, the sport. Okay. Let's say, for example, the first thing we're going to do is quantify. We're going to quantify the economy of effort, i.e., how much energy and effort are they passing out between these three things. This is an example, of course, and we'll just go from here. Say, for example, they do BJJ 4 days a week. They strength train currently 1 day a week, and they do conditioning 1 day a week. We can then see, obviously, the economy of effort is far higher for BJJ and a measly 16.7% for the conditioning and strength. Fuck all.
Yep.
So we go, okay, we've assessed this person. They do a lot of BJJ. Right now, they're doing this much work. I feel like more strength conditioning would help them. So how are we going to do this? We've quantified this. Important. The second thing is going to be in quantifying the limiting factors. We go, okay, which one of these needs work? We've got BJJ. They're pretty good because they've been training for X time, 4 days a week. They need more strength and they need more conditioning. So those two things equally need the same amount of work. And we now see limiting factors are not BJJ, because what you want to do is account for everything they're doing, not just the strength conditioning part. You want to account for their work, their home life, their BJJ, all these sort of things, right? Limiting factors, strength and conditioning, right? Then we want to quantify those limiters and prioritize them. So we're doing the same thing here. Oh no, my pie graph didn't work. I apologize. All right. We've quantified limiting factors. Now we're going to prioritize them. BJJ remains priority number 3 because it's not a limiting factor. They're good at it. They can sustain doing what they're doing already. We're just going to choose. And this, whether you choose to do more strength or more conditioning, is entirely your proclivity based on what you think might help them most and what you really feel like they need a lot. If you've got a BJJ dude and the dude is just like getting gassed at the end of the session of rolling and grappling, then perhaps conditioning needs work. If you've got a BJJ dude and he's cool, he can endure the entire session, but you're like, fuck, man, everything you're doing just looks weak. Like if you were stronger, it'd be so much helpful. You can now quantify which one might be priority 1 or 2. Can you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
So in this case, we're just going to assume BJJ priority number 3, strength 1, conditioning 2. And this is as simple as it needs to be, man. So we've gone through that. We've gone through that process, and we go, great. The structure in block 1, BJJ remains dosed as it is. Strength and conditioning now get employed minimal effective dose. Now, minimal effective dose, you can get real nerdy with this. It can be like X amount of sets and reps per muscle group, or what have you. You don't need to do that. If they're doing 1 day of strength training a week, then do 1 day and a little bit more, just a little bit more. If they're doing conditioning 1 day and just a little bit more, just give them a little bit more, just a little bit of top up, right? And run that for the entire block. So there's no actual drastic changes here. You're just taking control of what they're already doing, all right? Because programming is an iterative process. Iterative, meaning that at the end of every single block, like I said before, you want to give yourself an opportunity to assess whether your strategies are working or not. Because if you just went boof strength, boof conditioning, boof BJJ, you've lost a client. But also you want to open up what's called the runway for progression. You don't want to go to North Pole, because once you get the North Pole already by putting everything full hock straight away, you've got nowhere else to go. You can only go South Pole. So block number 1, that's what you're doing. Block number 2, all you're doing is just taking priority number 1 and adding what you're doing already, and just add 10 more % of total work volume. Add another day, maybe increase a few sets. It's entirely up to you how you want to manage that. But that's how small of a bump you want to do for block 2. Because remember, it's meant to be complementary, not insulting. You make them worse at BJJ or tired and exhausted. That's not what they want, right? So you start minimum effective, block number 2, 10% more on priority number 1. block number 3, another 10% on priority number 1, another 10% on priority number 2. Run this for a block. Block number 4, let's just drop strength. Now let's bias priority number 2 a little bit more. You know, so what we did from block 1, we're just seeing how things go, taking control. All right, now we're just going to take a little bit more control of strength works because that was priority number 1. Let's see how that pans out. Great, it panned out well. We can actually put a little bit more. Now let's try doing a little bit more conditioning. Great, that fucking worked well. Okay, he's getting strong now. Let's actually start prioritizing conditioning a little bit more. Let's just drop the strength training a bit. Now let's increase the conditioning. Right? You're doing all this to keep it complementary to this.
Yep. No, that's awesome. Yeah, man, that's sweet.
Does that? I know I just blitzed through that, and I shouldn't have. But
no, that's fine. That's fine.
Does that answer? Did you think about it that way?
I have a little bit, but to be honest, like if I just take my own training, for instance, I've just added, and I haven't decreased anything. You know what I mean? And then
I
honestly, like every 2 to 3 months, I end up getting sick or something, and that
right.
I haven't even. I was like, oh, well, maybe something has to give.
A simple framework that I also use to think about, and it's stimulate, develop, build. And I do that with my tactical athletes. So a lot of the tactical populations, they've got a set task that they need to be good at, which, same as you, involves multiple things. So instead of let's replace BJJ with there's a specific task, like a barrier test that they got to pass, right?
Yep.
But I still got to get strong and I still got to get them fit. So what I then do is I simply go identify the limiting factor or the thing that I reckon will be the most important for them. For a lot of the guys that I train, it's conditioning. So conditioning, I choose as the development thing. So it's usually the thing that's highest intensity, most volume, right? The strength in there, I simply stimulate that. I'm there to stimulate their strength because it's enough dosage because they're probably not used to it that they're still going to get strong. And then finally, I build, which is task. I continue building the task for you. That's BJJ. And then, you know, if they're getting closer to, say, a competition for BJJ, cool, BJJ becomes the development. And then stimulate becomes strength, and the last one is basically your conditioning. And so that's another way of, you know, a rotation that you can do. You just replace the words with that. It makes it a little bit easier to manage. And so in a week, I wouldn't go any more than 2 development days because, you know, you might train 5 times a week. So I'll go stimulate, develop, build, stimulate, develop. Right. And that's all I'm replacing those things. That kind of makes sense. It's easier when I draw it up and have little blocks, but it just gives you an easier way of thinking about your task, your strength, your conditioning.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah. I've got a guy that I coach from Brisbane. He does BJJ, he trains BJJ 5 times a week. It's
they're addicts, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah, they are. They are.
Yeah,
and you know, we actually he at the start he was like, yeah, conditioning and strength, no worries. So started with conditioning, and then he noticed himself actually falling into a pit very quickly where he was just getting fragged at BJJ. And I said to him, hey, like at the end of the day, you came to me because you wanted conditioning. Now, at the start, I told you that perhaps you might not need conditioning because you're already doing a lot of it, right? What you need, you're getting a lot of it because you train so fucking much. I said, let's remove conditioning entirely and just do strength work. Mad. So we did that, and then he got so fucking strong, or he's getting so fucking strong. Like we took his deadlift from like I think it was like 140 to 205, I think, in like 3 months, man. Wow. Like he got so strong, and we didn't do a shred of conditioning. He hasn't got less fit. He's been rolling for longer and better, and now he's like, you know, he's being able to. I think he's a purple belt. Who's above purple belt? Brown belt.
Yep.
Yeah, so he's been able to roll with some brown belts now and only get away with it because he's so much fucking stronger than what they are, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And we just a simple approach. Hey, dude, what days are you training BJJ? X, Y, Z. What days are you going to do strength? No worries. X, Y. Cool. Let's just do strength then. And I'm just taking the small bits of approach there. Every block we started, fuck all volume, block 1, block 2. We're good. We're repeating. Sweet. Let's go a little bit more. And yeah, so.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah. Sorry, go for it. I was going to say another one, Deacon, too. It's one of the most important parts of, like, you know, while we strength train in the ranges that we do, it's people think, say again, I'm going to use either, your BJJ or my tactical athlete, right? They think, oh, I've got to get stronger just to be stronger overall. But they don't realize that when you become stronger or strength training in general, your tendons become a lot more stiffer, your joints become a lot more stiffer. And so it's essentially what you're doing is you're becoming a spring. And a spring is much better at producing force than something that's elastic, right? Because now that those joints are, stronger, they're more stiff. When he's rolling or producing energy or producing force, he's doing it at a lesser cost than what he would need to. And so why, robot really means it's an extension for strength, because we realize that, strength is the cornerstone of everything we do.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Thank you. I mean, it makes sense as well. And then like just looking at it, I definitely should think about like kind of setting out, even if I just do a block and then with my own conditioning, focus on like a certain part, and then the next block focus on another bit, because I'm training twice a day, and it just adds up. You do it for 4 weeks, and then 5 weeks you just burnt out. So yeah,
If
that that makes sense.
If you and I started working together, Deacon, I wouldn't give you conditioning for the first block.
Yep.
I'd give you no conditioning. I did the exact same because of what you just said.
Yeah, because you train like you're already on the mats twice a day.
Right. It's like you're doing everything that's already so similar.
Yep. Mm.
We need to get you to reap the rewards of things that are dissimilar.
Dissimilar, right? Like the slide from previous.
Yeah, but now I'm making reference to it from like a training perspective as a whole.
Yep.
It's like you're doing a lot of rolling, do a lot of conditioning, and the conditioning probably resembles things that look like rolling. I'm not literally saying you're doing conditioning where you're rolling, but it's like, what sort of conditioning are you doing?
Like if we're doing stuff lately, we've actually been doing sprints, but before that, it was kind of like a lot of longer, like zone 2 stuff.
Right, and it's like for BJJ, you kind of need both of those.
Yeah, 100%.
Right, you can't you don't benefit from just one or the other. But anyway, you're already getting both those from BJJ. What the fuck are you doing more conditioning in your training, dude? In your training, get after the thing that you don't get at BJJ. That's what's going to make you better at BJJ.
And
that's the complementary thing.
Yeah, and if you watch one of the previous videos, we actually talked about it. So when you look at programming standpoint, there's a top-down approach and a bottom-up approach, right? Top-down is where you choose certain phases. I'm sure you would have been introduced to that. So it's like this block, we're going to do strength. Next block, we're going to do hypertrophy. Next block, we're going to do conditioning, right? Bottom, so that's something typically that you done. But what we look at is, again, depends on the person. We look at for a bottom-up approach. So a bottom-up approach would use this concept called microdosing. And so think of microdosing as not mushrooms. We're talking about.
I was going to say.
I know, straight away. We're talking about, cool. We understand that there's all those qualities. There's strength, there's hypertrophy, there's conditioning, there's power, right? What we do is we pick one quality and we bias it for that block. So for example, being that, we've just identified that you're very similar with your conditioning, we're going to bias strength for this block, and we're going to keep everything in there at a dose where you're still getting exposed to it and you're still going to notice improvements. This block we've done strength. Next block we're going to choose another quality. It might be hypertrophy. That becomes the bias, but strength is still in there. It's still in a maintenance type of thing where I'm exposing you and you're still going to get stronger over time. And we continue doing that. So at
it's
that
just
time,
not the priority.
Absolutely. So what you're doing is you're getting exposed to the quality you need, but what's not happening is you're not forgetting about it. And then it's like, cool, if we use the other approach and we did strength, and then the next time we did hypertrophy, and then we did power, then we conditioning. Cool. You haven't done strength in almost, 3 blocks, so to speak. If you use 5 weeks, that's, 15 weeks. That's a long time that you've not addressed that quality. And we know that one of the trainings of principle, it's like, if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah.
And so this is a primary thing of using that strategy is ultimately going to help you choose that quality that you require and bias the thing that you want.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's really good. Thank you.
Oh, obviously this is recorded, so I'll put it on YouTube, and you can go back and watch this segment to get a bit of a rehash. But the same thing I said to Jake, the conversation doesn't stop here, man. This is just the start. You'll learn more about energetics with Louis, of course. But so that'd be amazing. Strap in. But yeah, our recommendation just by this conversation, you probably need to do more strength than anything else. To make that your priority. But yeah, I'll have that up on YouTube. You can review it, man. And if you have any questions,
No, I will.
'cause
I will.
we,
Thank you.
we kind of did blitz through that because of time.